To 3 News at 5, it is the news of the day, the news of the weekend. Really, much of the world watched, and now we wait to see what the fallout is from the attacks on Iran. And as Israel and the United States are continuing to strike the country, the Pentagon says a 6th American service member now has been killed. It comes as the president says the strikes could last several weeks. So let's bring in Baldwin Wallace, political science professor, Tom Sutton. Professor, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you both.
So good to have you here.
Absolutely.
So let's jump off of where Jay was just talking about. President Trump today saying he expects it to be 4 to 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks that this will last. But then immediately Iran came out and said there will be no negotiations with the U.S. Realistically, is there even a way to gauge how long this could last?
It really depends on how far into this we go. Number one, if this continues to be an air war and does not involve any ground troops, then it's quite possible that the 4 to 5 week timeline would work, not unlike what happened in June with the Israeli and the American attacks against Iran's nuclear facilities. If, however, we bring in troops, it's an entirely different story. If this becomes a ground war, as happened with the Iraq War in 2003, we're talking about a much longer stretch. And let's keep in mind that that 4 to 5 week window is roughly about the 60 days required, after which there must be congressional action to authorize this. Otherwise, the United States has to withdraw under the War Powers Resolution of 1973.
This is tricky because one of the stated resolutions, regime changes is clearly a big part of this. And Ayatollah Khamenei being out isn't like the leader of any country because he's a spiritual leader.
Correct.
So I'm wondering how this impacts all of the Shia Islam world, seeing that the United States and Israel have taken out a spiritual leader like that. What will the fallout be from the other countries?
We're already seeing that fallout with the protests that happen in places like Pakistan, which is a border country of Iran,
right.
And has a Shia population, majority Shia population in Iraq, and you have militias there that extend all the way from the war that we had in the mid-2000s. As a spiritual leader, the Ayatollah is one of the highest of leaders. But it's not a centralized religion in the way that we would think of like the Catholic Church. It's not a hierarchy. But it is something that many are mourning his death on the basis of him being that spiritual leader. But he also holds essentially ultimate power in a theocratic regime, really the only theocratic regime on the planet in terms of the Islamic world. Saudis are sort of, but not really in the same way. So in that respect, I think you could see, you're certainly seeing responses now. I don't think those responses are going to necessarily continue, but it does create this additional destabilizing effect, not just in the Middle East, but in other parts of the world where you have Shia populations.
So from the U.S. standpoint, Russia and China have been pretty silent on all of this. What does the geopolitical world look like today with the fall of the Iranian regime, at least so far, in regards to Russia and China and the U.S. in terms of superpowers?
Well, in terms of Russia, we've already seen Russia weakened, A, by their engagement in the war with Ukraine, B, by the weakening of what happened with Syria, with the change in leadership and the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad, who was an ally of Russia. And Russia had been basically his partner militarily. So he'd already lost that. This is simply another step in that direction where Russia is losing influence in the region, which is critical for them because, in part, they want to build relationships with Arab countries. This is not an Arab country, but it destabilizes that whole arrangement. China, it's all about the oil. China will never get enough oil, never get enough natural resources that they need to continue to grow, and Iran was one of their primary suppliers. So in both cases, you're seeing a weakening, and I think that's also why you're seeing them, relatively speaking, quiet on the scene.
Interesting.
Professor Tom Sutton, thank you so much. We appreciate just all the information that you're able to give us on this and walk us through it, because it's complicated.
It is, yeah.
And we appreciate
Professor,
your insight.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
With you both.
We'll be right back.